Mm. Hey everybody, it's Larry. Here on beautiful Saturday, 9 p.m. New York night. It's snowing outside. It's kind of cold actually. But I have 40 seconds, so that's kind of, wish me for a good contest, for good luck. Mm. Yeah, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit all the buttons you like. And then let me know in the comments what you like and what you don't like. I'm trying to kind of iterate on how to make this a little bit more smooth or not. Yeah, so let me know how that goes. I still have 15 seconds, so I don't know. So let me do a little dance and let me kind of stretch a little bit, relax, and then let's kind of get started. But yeah, hope you're enjoying this as much as I will be, hopefully. All right, let's go. Cool, 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 cool. Yeah, so open up the palms. Need a theme song to this. Yeah, if y'all have any suggestions, let me know. But yeah, maximum six. My first comment I was like, yeah, real mature, but it's okay. Um, but yeah, but I think I was trying to figure out what's the best way to do it. I mean, I knew how to do it immediately, I guess, which is greedy, which is converting the first digit that you see that's a six to a nine, because it's. I mean, and I've done similar problems to this before, where it never makes sense to convert from nine to a six in this case, um, because you can kind of prove like the only reason that makes sense is because in the future you would get another like maybe a bigger number later on. But in this case, that's not the case. So I knew how to do it immediately. It's just about coding. And I settled on kind of the string method, which I've seen other people done, like in kind of these things where you're not really thinking about a number. So that's kind of the way I did it. Uh, Excuse me. I did this really quickly, so I'm happy about that. I think I was even actually a little bit careful about it. Like I didn't need to. Yeah, I probably didn't need to test the other ones, but I still wanted to anyway. Um, let's see. Yeah, and it got accepted pretty quickly. So we're on to the second challenge. Um, cool. Yeah. So putting words vertically. I mean, I think this is also like a straightforward thing. I think the only thing that I didn't really pay attention to was the trailing spaces one. Uh, but um, but luckily and thankfully, this was not hidden. I think maybe LeetCode has gotten the feedback that I guess last week or the week before, where the exam was really terse and short, and people were like whatever about it. But this one, I feel like the entire contest, the examples were pretty detailed. So that kind of saved me a little bit because I was making silly mistakes. But on this one, like I would have not recognized the trailing space, and I'd be like have to read the poem again, right? But that was my only big thing. But in general, this was a if you read the poem, and there's a link below to the poem, so to the contest and the poems. But yeah, so you can kind of read it alongside me if you're not on the contest. But it was a straightforward one. I mean, there are a number of ways you could have done this one, like maybe putting it into a matrix or something like that. But the way that I did it was just I mean, I did essentially do an implicit matrix on a string, but I got some of the dimensions. I mean, not dimension, but just the length of the dimensions a little bit. Well, I just didn't think it through before I started coding, which is possibly a dubious sign. But in general, anyway. But in Leetcode is always tricky because everything is decided by seconds. Because everything is a speed contest these days for whatever reason. But yeah, but even though I did not make any submission errors. I still took 5 minutes to do this poem, which is probably a little bit slower side for me. Um, definitely, definitely. Let me know what you think. But um, but yeah, here I just had to move my stuff around because I think in my head I was had an implementation. But the problem is, well, let's see if you can spot the typo right now, because it took me a while, and that was the other kind of issue for this contest was that I just had a lot of silly, really unforced errors. I mean, it is good in the sense that like they're so silly that they don't even pass the example case, like that one for example. Um, but they're just so silly, right? Um, and they lead to kind of yeah, they lead to things in a way that like like for example, this is mostly done. This is about 4 minutes in, but I spent another 2 minutes and 40 seconds, which is not a big deal, but in general, it's not a big deal. But when a problem is 5 minutes and you spend 2 minutes debugging, that's like half of your problem is debugging, right? So that's a little sad. But yeah, I mean, maybe I need to figure out a better warm up strategy, just in general, to kind of get me warmed up on Python again. But yeah, in this case, I get one time where I'm like, huh, I print them out, they look okay, so that means, like, sometimes I worry about the parsing sometimes, but in this case, it seems okay. So I was like, okay, this looks okay. It's not okay, but I thought this looks okay. To the fact that I have to print it out to be like, oh, I'm being dumb. And you'll see in a second. I don't want to win the surprise. This is sad to watch in retrospect, obviously, as it usually is. This is like pair programming, except for you can tell them what's coming. So, or like that book by Kurt Vonnegut, Time Quick. Forced to watch yourself making silly mistakes. But also, if you've watched or if you've read the book Time Quick, leave a comment. But yeah, as soon as I saw like what X is printing, I'm like, oh, it has to input because I'm printing X. Silly. Yeah, I don't know why. I actually retest this without the print. Oh yeah, except for the trailing spaces one. And this is also the other thing that I think I'm just not warmed up as a result. Because I had to do a quick Google about, I think I got stuck in my head about like white split or white strip. And I think I flipped them in my head. That was right, but I just had to do a quick Google. It cost me maybe 30 seconds, which is not a terrible deal, but it's still not nothing. So that's a little sad. And especially if you look at the final rankings, or I'm looking at the final rankings, an extra 20 seconds put me up like 5 ranks. So that's how close it gets, But yeah, once it's good, I think I'm run code again just to make sure, and then submit it. It's good. Delete leaves with a given value. Okay, so this one, how did I think about this one? I mean, it was a tree problem, and we've had a string of tree problems on Leetcode, so I knew that. I don't know. I mean, to be honest, it's just like a few variations. This one's a cute one, I think, because it forces you. I think I'm just looking at the constraints a little bit, and kind of the return values. I knew that I just have to return the root, and then we have to do some kind of filter. You could have coded this a few different ways, but I think one thing that yeah, you have to maintain the note. You have to maintain the connections, and that's only done from the parent. So that's the kind of one thing that's a little tricky about it. Otherwise, I think is in general, or a lot of tree problems that I've, it doesn't really matter if you do pre-ordered, post-order, in order. It doesn't really matter in general. But in this case, what you actually want is that is a post-order, right? You want to process your children first, and then if your current node after processing the children has no children, then you process it now. So that's kind of my idea about it. So I think I still relatively got this one pretty quickly. I mean, this is about 2-3 minutes. This is about 2 minutes into this problem. I should have gotten this really quickly. I mean, I'm right now. I'm just in typing mode, right? So, but instead, I end up spending like another few minutes, and I'm just a little bit upset about the silly mistakes. I mean, I need to figure out, like I said, a better warm up technique or something like that. Just something like I just got home. It's 9 p.m. So I'm like, okay, I have to get into my thing. See if you can spot the typo. I do. If you can spot the typo, then lucky I do catch this one. Um, yeah, see if you can spot the typo. This is about 9.5 minutes in. So I spent 3.5 minutes catching this typo. I mean, and typing the example cases, I suppose. But this typo cost me about 3 minutes. So already two silly mistakes cost me about 5 minutes this contest, which is the difference between my current rank and the top 25. So I just have to be slightly better. I mean, sometimes stars don't align. See if you could catch the typo. I mean, I know that the camera's jumping a lot, uh, but if you could catch a typo, leave a comment. Leave a comment below if you could see the typo before I make the typos. We'll give you mad props. Give you Larry bucks, which is actually unfortunately not worth anything, but my respect. I think I was just looking at the examples, and at this point, just looking at the examples, see what I'm returning, why I'm returning, and I saw that. Oh, I guess I didn't see it yet. I'm still looking at everything. Yeah, this is kind of sad to watch in retrospect because I still spent about 2 minutes of this. I don't do the filter, so actually that's a legitimate typo as well, or mistakes as well. But because nothing is working, like that would have been an easy thing to debug because then you would return nothing actually. But because it doesn't return. Oh yeah, but because it does return everything, it's something else, right? So I was like, even doing that one, I knew that wasn't going to solve it, but I was like, that is definitely a bug. So I resort to old school, and I think this is where I think in general Leetcode. I mean, this is just me Leetcode, not Leetcode system. Um, I do love writing in the web interface and stuff like this, but debugging is painful, just in general. Like if I don't have to debug, if I'm really good, then like it doesn't really matter. But because I do, I have to do stuff like this. I'm like, oh, it does go in, right? Like there are things where it does recursion, and then put it there. I'm like, oh. And this judging is always a little slower than it needs to be. I mean, this time is not Leetcode's fault. It's just more like when you're debugging, every second you're waiting is like, oh my, oh my. So I was like, oh, it just does a filter. So why is this not propagating up? Oh, yeah. And if you look at his face, he is not happy, and neither am I. And then now the response or results look way more reasonable, and still looks the same. So that's submit, and here we go. Last problem. Minimum number of tabs to open the water garden. Yeah, for this one, I mean, I knew it was dynamic programming right away. I knew that, well, this one I was actually, I think at the very beginning, I'm trying to read very deliberately because I think I have been running a thing where I keep on making a silly mistake of just solving the wrong problem and have to redo them. So I did this a couple of times over the last couple of contests. So this one, I was trying really hard to make sure I get this right. I knew that it was shortest path in the DAG, and immediately I think my mind is thinking about how to implement this, right? Like, where's the implementation? Let me just double check some off by ones or something like that. And I think I even debated doing it in C++. I think my first approach was slightly off, but I knew like the right. I think I was settled on two things that I had a safer route and then a route that isn't as safe. But anyway, so here I was like, oh, what is n? N is 10 to the fourth, so 10 n squared is not going to be fast enough. But then I noticed that ranges is only going to be 100. So then you know that on both sides there's going to be at least 200. So you can iterate over 200 things easily. So I just have to do some greedy and transformations, and that's it. But I wasn't sure about the two approaches. I mean, I think in my mind I always knew, but I was wondering if I could get away with being a little bit easier. And the answer is no. And I think I tried to I was like, do I want to do C++ or Python? I'm like, maybe I'll just do Python because I could. If it was C++, then I could, do bottoms up or to do top down. But then with this Python, I'm like, okay, maybe I'll just stick to Python. I could do this really quickly as well. I just do memorization. Memorization is easy. Right here, to be honest, I'm not good enough at this point for dynamic programming problems to be like, okay, I know exactly what to write. I mean, because I have the algorithm in my head, but the algorithm converting to code is not 100% at this point. And I'm still thinking about, okay, are there any edge cases that I'm not thinking of? Are there weird things? Do I need to be greedy? Do I need to, how am I implementing it? Is it sure that I want to do top down or bottoms up or whatever? For dynamic programming, especially, do I want to go, do dynamic programming where I go forward or do I want to go backwards? In this case, it's symmetric, so it doesn't matter per se, as long as it follows through your setup. And in this case, the way that I did it was I converted each of the ranges into a line segment. And that line segment being an edge going from the left to the right with the right endpoint keeping track. So for that, you have to go backwards. I mean, you could have done it the other way, but you go forward or something like that, right? So, or maybe if you make it a true digraph and then just, I don't know, bigraph. But yeah, but in any case, but here, yeah, I'm just still a little bit just going for that. I realize I need the index, so I changed the enumerate. I changed the R just so it's slightly easier to remember. I gotta stop using X for everything. I've been kind of in the bad habits mode for even the programming contests because it's faster, but I feel like it always costs me in debugging, right? Like it's easier to write and you save a couple of seconds, but yeah, it's just a mess. So initially, I wanted to build out an adjacency list where we said we do keep track so that it doesn't go beyond the bounds because at those places, that's where you start. But I think at this point, to be honest, I was still trying to figure out whether I want to do top down or bottoms up. And let's see how much time it costs me. I mean, I think it doesn't, like, in some sense, it doesn't matter for me per se. And in a good way, actually, maybe I have some weird off by ones, actually. Or no, I think, maybe actually, now that I think about it, I think I explained the thing a little bit differently. Though it is not, I don't know. I have to kind of play with the idea of Leetcode. So if you're looking at the solution in the future, I think maybe I'm a little wrong, but because I think I just don't take care of the zero case. I think that's actually the reason, because then now it could in the zero case maybe it has itself. But I thought it was just like because I was also not sure about the running time because I was 10. I don't know if there was I mean, I guess there is where like you have an array of 10 to the fourth numbers and there were ones, then you'd actually get a really big recursive depth. I know that by default, Python's recursive depth limit is like 1,000. I don't know if Leetcode changes that to be higher so that it's slightly easier. I don't know if that's the case, but Um, but I did run into it, and I think for me anyway, just able to visualize it top down and figure out the transition. It's something that I've been practicing a little bit to convert it to bottoms up. So not a totally lost cause, but it is still like a couple of minutes that I wasted. But the bigger waste of time, of course, is not silly mistakes. Usually, it's when you don't have to write algorithm, as you'll see. Because I think I was trying to be a little bit lazy about it, but I shouldn't have. I think I tried to for this problem. I tried a little bit to optimize for getting the code out as soon as possible. Even though I know that I'm running a slightly or maybe slightly worrisome but suboptimal one-time complexity algorithm. Sometimes you make these trade-offs, and sometimes you're wrong about these trade-offs. That's why we practice, and that's why we do these contests. So then it will inform us in the future about like, okay, maybe I do or maybe I don't need these things. But in this case, I was just like, oh, do I need the entire? Do I need to go through each of the? So the difference between is like, oh, I could go to the endpoint, the previous endpoint. Do I need each of these things? I think there is a way to set up my recursion such that I do that. But I was running into maximum recursion depth. Um, I think technically maybe reading this error message, I think I would have went through it anyway. It's just that I also have another bug with I think it was just calling itself where y is equal to x or something like that. So I think that was actually fortunate, I guess, for me actually looking back, because like it was never going to do 10,000 recursive in a easy or in a way that wasn't going to be an issue. So I needed to convert this to bottoms up anyway, but at least I did it without paying a 5-minute penalty, right? Um, when I saw that, I was like, okay, I need to implement this. I mean, the good thing is I already had the edges. So this is still wrong, by the way, but at least, like it cost me maybe a minute, which, sometimes you do these maths in your head um, of like which route to pursue in terms of implementation, even if you know the answer. And sometimes you're wrong, and sometimes that's okay. And it's more okay if it doesn't cost you 5 minutes. But that's kind of what I am doing here. I'm a little bit on this part. I'm a little bit slow as I'm kind of like make sure I get all the variables right. This is a thing where like I'm using x and y again, which is a little bit unfortunate. This could be slightly cleaner as a result, but yeah. I ran the code. Unfortunately, it was not one. Actually, it was. I was. I don't know if I'm lucky well, I am lucky to some degree, but also the examples are very good. But I failed the third one, which where you don't turn on the tabs where they're always on the borderline, because that was kind of my assumption, or like it was a sketchy and not stable assumption, but I was thinking maybe you could do that. Uh, but yeah, well, at this point I'm 10 minutes in, so I feel like I probably could have been fast to be honest, even this one. But I was worried more about getting it right than speed at this point, to be honest. I put out the DPOA just to kind of see why that case fails. And I mean, I could probably work it out, but just having an additional thing to visualize it so that it makes it obvious is helpful. I think I also print out the edges just in case. Well, not just in case, but I do this later. And as I always mention, live debugging is really costly, as you kind of see. So, you because I still don't know at this point whether it makes sense for me to switch languages yet. Well, not languages, essentially algorithm. But then I think at the back of my mind, I was still on this ranges is less than 100 thing. So then I'm like, okay, what does it mean? Um, at this point, I'm like, okay, what does it mean for me? Or what does it mean for um, ranges to be 100? Or like if we only use the ranges, or we look at every number in the range, what does that matter, right? Or what does it mean, right? And that means that yeah, you for each edge um, that over that in that ends here, you want to count each of the things that each of the for each edge, you look at each of those segments that ends here, but which is great, which works also. But you notice that obviously, if you kind of look at the segment and each of them are kind of ending here, you have like they all overlap in one way, or they all overlap each other. And if they all overlap, then you don't have to consider the smaller ones because the longest one already does it for you. So in that way, you kind of knock down a layer of complexity. So here I'm just like still going over the problem, but yeah. But once I do that, once I implement that, I think there's one more thing I want to probably to talk about, and you could kind of see it pretty soon, hopefully. But yeah, I think at this point I'm still trying to figure out whether I need the other algorithm. But I really, to be honest, I feel like I knew what I was doing. I was just in denial. I think I was like maybe I could sketch together like the -1, but then it led to a lot of answers being wrong. So I was like, okay, that's not even approachable. Um, but yeah. Still trying to understand this problem. The funny thing is that as soon as I decide on it, it took like 2 minutes. So it actually wasn't even that much time or that complex. I think some of it speaks to the fact that, like, sometimes your hardest opponent is you, and sometimes you have mental blocks, and sometimes you think of things that, you itself make it harder than it should be. And once you kind of get beyond that, things get a little bit, it's not insurmountable. And here I just worry about getting the index. I think there's a little bit of copy and paste. Anytime you copy and paste, especially in a contest, it's still a little scary just because, what if you copy and paste wrong? Um, and in this case, there are a couple of places to do it, and off by ones and stuff like this. But some of that is, yeah, you have a little practice, and then this itself was good enough, and I was a little bit surprised, to be honest. Oh, oh wait, no, there was one more thing, which is, yeah, I mean, you'll see in a second. But yeah, I just have to, yeah, make sure that this is, otherwise I was doing negative numbers, which in Python, it's really weird. Or not weird, just like different than other languages when that it wraps around. So, um, yeah, but as soon as I did that, hmm. Oh yeah, yeah, everything was started from zero, was the default value. So the min was always going to be zero. That's the reason why. But yeah, but now we're good. So yeah, so this head is going to go out. Talk to the other Larry, and remember to look at the description and stuff like this for the links. I'll see y'all maybe next week. Bye bye. Okay, could have been faster. That's how that goes. Half an hour. Yeah. Wow, new rule, of course. 90. Wow. People are really fast on the last one. I should have gone down one. I feel like I had the right idea. I took really long to implement it. I mean, and obviously I did the thing where I did the top down, um, and what you may call it. Oh yeah, and then I had to convert it to bottoms up, which wasn't that hard. But I don't know why I end up typing. Like I knew what I was. It's kind of a weird feeling, because I feel like I knew what I wanted to do when I was doing it, but then I didn't do it. You know what I mean? Like, and then I did it like slightly tweak. I'm like, oh, maybe I could get away with doing this, but well, I can't. Okay, I'll go for the palms. Yeah, pretty okay. Yeah, well, I should have been faster. I mean, like I knew how to do it almost immediately. It was the shortest path in the thing. I think that okay. I'll go over it one by one. Let me start this the first one, and then we'll work my way up or down or whatever. Maximum 69 number. Win by probably somebody immature. But yeah, the I think this is just essentially greedy. It's just the first instance of a six that you could convert to a nine, then you do it. And well, I don't know how long did I end up taking this in? 1 minute 17 seconds, and I was a little bit kind of checking stuff. I think I ran tests twice even, but yeah, I mean it's greedy. Yeah, I mean, and you don't apply any changes only if it's all nines, and there's no instance where you would change from a six to a nine. So, and apparently numbers only up to 10,000. I don't know why they did it this way, but I guess that's fine. Yeah, print words vertically. I took 5 minutes on this one, mostly because I was silly. I think the good news for this contest is that I didn't make any silly submissions, but I did make a lot of silly mistakes, and this one was one of them where I was updating X for like a couple of minutes, so I thought we could have shaved a couple of minutes here and there, and that would have been maybe been good enough if I was a little bit less silly. Haha, beat someone by 1 second. Sorry, Centaurian. Um, yeah, it could have been faster. Phew. But yeah, but this one just simulation, right? It's horizontal. You just have to make them vertical. I think one more thing was that I had to search because I wrote right split for or all split for a second. I'm like, that's not right because that's a split. And then I kind of had a mental block with right strip instead of split. But other than that, that was my only thing. And also just using the wrong variables. You could rewind if you want to see that, or probably there's a live commentary. But yeah, delete leaves with a given value. This was also a little sad. This took me 7 minutes, but mostly because I was being silly again. Another stupid mistake where I mean, if you looked at the tape, you'll see it. I used equal instead of equal, so that nothing was updating. But the invariant is just that in general, or a lot of these tree problems, it doesn't matter if you do depth first search or breadth, or sorry, in order, pre-order, post order, it doesn't really matter. In this case, you actually want to do the post order, which means process your leaves first. And as long as you do that, your children first rather. Once you process your children first, then and I just have a kind of a flag to remove itself. And once you remove itself, yeah, once you remove everything, then like you can kind of propagate that up the tree, so to speak. And that's pretty much it. I spent a lot of time. I have to kind of take a. So I do this before I go back and look at the commentary, but yeah, definitely could have. Um, yeah, I mean, I spent a couple of minutes just debugging equals -1 for some reason. I don't know. I didn't even see it until like a little bit later. So that took 7 minutes, probably a couple of good minutes on that one. And a couple of minutes is the difference between top 25 or so. So that's kind of sad. But yeah, uh, yeah, well, that's okay. Yeah, this one I don't know what else. I mean, I on one hand it's good practice. On the other hand, it's kind of little. I mean, I know that 10 to 4th, so that was always going to be the recursive depth. Uh, so like I tried writing it top down first, and it times out, or not times out, a Stack Overflow. But obviously, you could have done it this way with the bottoms up dynamic programming, and the idea is that a little bit of greed. I mean, initially I thought I could get away with some edge thing, but then I forget how to intersect it. Or like I think I was juggling a couple of dots in my head, and then I was just trying to see what could run out. But I ran into some issues, obviously, with the top-down memorization. So that is one of the kind of risk. Um, in Python specifically, I think the recursion depth is only about 1,000. In other languages, it's less explicit. It depends on how much stuff you're putting on the stack. Generally, maybe in some languages it's different, but at least like in the languages that I'm familiar with, off my head, I could be wrong on that one actually. But I know that Python, for example, is 1,000, and it tells me there. I have to write the bottoms up, so that costs actually a minute, not that long, because I saw once I write the top down, I could convert it pretty easily. It's just the initial kind of mindset. And then the second thing was that noting the greedy that I could just because if I'm doing overlap, then you always just want the one that goes for, like if you're going to turn on one, you're going to at a certain spot, you're always going to turn on one that goes for goes for goes back the farthest, because it makes sense. It doesn't make sense to take a small chunk. And also, I did do a conversion where the input of ranges. I think that actually like took me a couple of minutes. I mean, I think I knew intuitively, but I also wanted to really be sure that I get the code right, because there was a lot of off by ones here. And I even wrote this in a little weird way with. I even debated kind of doing C++ in this for that reason, but yeah, but overall you just kind of check each one just to see what, and this is a standard kind of dn square shortest path in the DAG kind of thing, because once you model this as a DAG from every endpoint to its previous endpoint, and you kind of see it in the visualization, then it becomes a little bit straightforward. And I think the thing that I noticed immediately, well, first I obviously NSE goes to 10,000, so I was like, okay, no n square stuff. But then I noticed that ranges is 100. That means that in both directions you're going to go in 200. So it's still going to be only 10,000 times 200. So that was way faster enough. I don't know. I could have been faster, but that's fine. Cool. Overall, I mean, can't complain about a contest where you finish maybe top 50, because I don't know if that this has the other server merges it in. Merchant, you never know. I don't know how these things work. Because sometimes there's like a emerge in the Chinese server a little bit later or something like that. Oh, I thought that was me, so I guess I actually finished. Oh, I was tied, maybe. So if I was only 1 second. So the funny thing is that I could have gone. I mean, it's not a big deal, obviously. In long term, it doesn't really matter. But I did. If you look at it, I did run another submission, comment these out, and then running it. I think. And I think I did that for an earlier problem too, so that would have saved me a couple seconds. Anyway, I'm going to try this thing where I don't do the code review. Let me know what you think. If you really missed the code review, I'll come back and do it. But I just want to see, I'm experimenting with the process. Since, yeah, I don't know how much of it, how many people really value it. So, but I used to. But yeah, cool. All right, thanks for staying with me. Let me know in the comments what you would like to see, what you don't like to see, what you like explained. There'll be links on the bottom to go to different parts of the problem, and even explanations and code once that's up. Stay in tune, stay in touch, keep in, I don't know. Just hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and hopefully you'll see more of these in the future. Thank you.